So here we are again at the NOAA conference in Zurich in beautiful Switzerland. And I have another fantastic guest on the We Don't Have Time TV show. And if you could say who you are, your name,
Sure.
and who you're representing.
Sure. So very happy to be here. My name is Mathias Wikström. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Duconomy, working out of Stockholm, but today covering 20 plus markets in the world.
Great, amazing. So this is an idea then that you're bringing into the NOAA conference here, where startups and investors meet and organizations. What is this idea? What does it do, and how is it going to make the world a better place?
Yeah, so we had great conversations with Marco leading up to the NOAA conference, and what we bring to the table is really a language for impact in transactions, making every transaction count, connecting it to CO2 emissions equivalents and freshwater components, working with carbon footprint on products, enabling SMEs to calculate carbon footprint cradle to gate on product level, as well as the lifestyle calculator that we just did together with the UNFCCC, and that was launched at COP26 in Glasgow just recently.
Okay, so you're working with the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UN Climate Change. This is on lifestyle for ordinary people in rich countries and poor countries, or how far does it extend around the world?
Exactly, and that's a very important point. So by today, we have it activated in 120 countries around the world, which is amazing to see. And it's all about enabling people to understand the baseline. What is a carbon footprint to begin with, to educate themselves, to shape a language that everyone can communicate around in regard of driving behavioral change to reduce the impact that we have. Now, we all know that different parts of the world has much less impact than where I'm coming from. So obviously this responsibility is unevenly distributed. But the language needs to be the same and need to remain with a great integrity, we believe.
This lifestyle app, presumably, is building on your activities from before with companies, in a sense, tracking their carbon footprints.
Yes.
So how long have you been working on these various ideas?
You're looking at the gray hair.
No, that's just a fashion statement.
Of course it is, yes. No, we've been working on this for 6 years now. We started with the methodology around connecting impact on transaction level, working with the transaction data, turning every credit card into a textbook for change so that you would understand that every action has a reaction. And extracting knowledge from that, we're also working in a long partnership with the UNFCCC for over 3 years now. And this is admittedly not the first and only lifestyle carbon calculator in the market. However, updates are quite takes a lot of energy out of the organizations. And we wanted to, together with the guys at the UN, build something as an open structure so that any organization or company or school could enable their users, students, clients in turn to do these calculations to incentivize further educating yourself around your impact.
I think this education is really important. In fact, it's never been more important. I was always, I think when I was working for the UNFCCC and also working for UNEP, I was a bit I didn't realize the importance of education. I thought somehow the governments were all educating their young people about climate change, environment.
One would hope so,
yeah. I kind of thought it was just going on. And then I realized only just latterly that in fact, well, 2 years ago, Italy incorporated climate education across their national curricula. UK announced it in Glasgow. So we've got 2 countries that have done it since governments promised to do it in 1992.
Yeah, quite a bad grade, right?
I think it's less than 0 out of 10. I mean,
horrible.
It's quite shocking.
It is.
I mean, in a sense, there's whether it be the young people marching on the streets, or whether it be some of these initiatives like eco schools, whether it be a lifestyle calculator, everybody's filling a vacuum that's been, in a sense, left by governments. And I think it's brilliant that you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
But I think it speaks to the urgency of informing people actually over their entire lives, because this is a moving target that changes, right? The even the calculator is going to change over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
In terms of.
No, I agree, and I think you're absolutely right. And one of my favorite quotes are from Jean-Paul Sartre, who said, "Once you know and are aware," which calls for education, you can choose to do something or you can choose to do nothing, but you're still aware.
Yeah.
And I think the education, and I consider the economy at the most an educational effort, making use of different partnerships, working with other change agents in the space, like we don't have time, or different banks or different brands. But academia is critical in getting this to the many, because we can't just expect change to happen without educating people around the effects or the abilities to change. And I'm very happy to see Italy and UK leading the way, but I mean, it's a really sad state of things if only 2 countries are doing it.
Yeah.
This should really be part of everyone's curriculum, I would say.
I run a campaign on this on behalf, or with, in cooperation with and supporting an NGO that's called Earth Day, which is one of the oldest NGOs in the world in green matters. And many of the governments said, oh, the teachers are so busy with COVID, they don't have time to be... But no, Education International, which is in Brussels, is the umbrella for the teachers' unions around the world. And they joined this campaign. 32.5 million unionized teachers around the world said, we want climate education taught across the curricula in schools all around the world. And we will need some support from governments in terms of they need a bit of training to the teachers to do it. But they're right behind it. So every excuse fell by the wayside.
Yeah.
And still, the governments were like, but... it's like we're a national government. It's really the regional governments. So in Germany, regional governments. Yeah. We can't really get involved in that as a national government. And I said, yeah, but you're the person at the COP. You're the national government. Yeah. Only you can make a decision at a UN conference. Your regional governments can't. Oh well, we're a bit nervous about that. Everyone was coming up with excuses, but I think there's a bit of momentum building on this, and I hope in Egypt it will break through the doors.
I think Egypt is going to be where we call the bluffs to see what has actually been done and what was, because coming out of COP26, I think there was a little bit too many tomorrows in the headlines. When are we going to get this going? Tomorrow. So I think Sharm el-Sheikh is going to be interesting to follow up, just like any fundamental financial analysis. Follow the money, see what happens. But to the educational perspective, I think you're bang on the target, and it's so extremely important. But also to make use of functions outside of academia. So I had this conversation with Jennifer Rademacher, MasterCard, driving education around enabling financial inclusion, and making use of those rails to also educate around sustainability and the environmental impact of the lifestyle choices we make. So I think that we are seeing a lot of people stepping up to this challenge, making use of what is already in place, but maybe repurposing some of the channels to also carry educational efforts around sustainability. And looking at my daughter Leia and my son Morris, when the conversations we have, I'm proud to see that they're extremely committed and very knowledgeable, and they're seeking their knowledge themselves. But to your point, we should definitely enable teachers to contribute to this in every way they can, and COVID is no excuse for not doing it.
Super. Well, thank you very much indeed for being on the show. We're obviously passionate about all things climate change and environmental. We want things to change. We have our own little campaign here. You may have noticed, for example, a figure that has been appearing, and it keeps getting bigger.
Yes, unfortunately.
We thought, we were hoping that might be the revenues that We Don't Have Time is earning, but it's not true. That's 600 billion US dollars. And that 600 billion has grown since Glasgow, the UN Climate Conference, and it is the fossil fuel subsidies by governments.
And it's horrible.
It's really absurd, isn't it? And it's a bit like dinosaurs subsidizing meteors.
Yes, but it's also a brilliant example of how to make things tangible in a very non-tangible problem. Unfortunately, it's getting more and more tangible day by day, but I think what you guys have done here, and successfully so, is illustrating the absurdities in saying one thing here and acting in one way there. And that needs to stop.
Absolutely needs to stop, and I think it's about joined up government. And I think governments were supposed to get joined up after Paris. They were supposed to get joined up with the Sustainable Development Goals, but I still think there are some ministries operating in their own silos. And maybe the environment minister in some countries can't even talk to the energy minister about this because they think they're too strong. we need to break those silos down as well. But yeah, anyway, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you for
on.
having me. Thank you so much.
Really
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.